Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game. Imagine telling us just over 9 years later, just how popular this franchise would have gotten after that video was posted. That, of course, was Markiplier's intro to the very first Five Nights at Freddy's video he ever made, which to my knowledge is the only Let's Play episode any YouTuber has done of Five Nights at Freddy's that has over 100 million views. The very first episode he made of the series. And that intro, of course, leads us into let's talk about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Yep, I've seen it. And unfortunately, Markiplier is not in this movie as a cameo, which is a shame, because he was filming his own movie, Iron Lung, at the same time that this movie was being filmed, so he couldn't make it because of scheduling. But a little bit later on in the video, there is a nice little cameo from somebody else that many of us do know. But without further ado, let us get straight into it. So the movie begins with a security guard in the pizzeria. As you'd expect, because that's what this whole franchise started with. And he's trying to get a vent open, finally manages to, starts crawling through it, gets out of a different side of the vent, then hears dum 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 diddly dum 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 dum. If you've forgotten what that is, which you might have, it's been over 9 years since the first Five Nights at Freddy's came out. That is something that Foxy does that you will sometimes hear just randomly. Foxy will start doing that when you're changing cameras just randomly. The security guard hears that, and then Foxy starts sprinting at him. Next thing we know, the security guard is tied up, and an animatronic mask is about to be put onto him with a bunch of sharp gears spinning. And that's all we see from him. We don't see him again. Then we meet our main character, Mike Schmidt, who of course is the main character of the first game, and his younger sister, Abby, who is also a very important character to this. So his and Abby's aunt wants custody of Abby, and Mike won't let her have custody of her. So his aunt has a babysitter who babysits Abby when Mike's at work, to see if there's anything she can find that makes him look like a bad guardian for her. But she can't find anything. Mike isn't having very much luck with jobs at the moment. His dream is to visit Nebraska, as he has a poster in his bedroom on the ceiling, which he then takes to the pizzeria later on in the movie. But there's this reoccurring dream he keeps having, and he has it about 5 to 6 times throughout the movie, probably more than that. Basically, it's of him when he was 12 and his younger brother Garrett being taken away in a little picnic they were having in a forest. But he's the only one who saw it. His parents didn't see it happen, only he did. And he wants to find out who took his brother. And he continuously has this dream over and over throughout the movie. And you're thinking, well, how the hell does he get the security guard job at the pizzeria in the first place? Well, that's an interesting one, because him and Abby are in a shopping mall I don't know where they are. I think they're at, like, maybe a cafe. Mike is buying himself and Abby a coffee. I don't know where they are. I really don't know. But Mike sees this guy dragging this little boy away from his line of sight. So he goes chasing after this guy. Rugby tackles him into the fountain in the middle and starts beating the crap out of him. The thing he didn't check was that that kid was the guy's son. So Mike just beat up that kid's dad in front of him, which ends him up in an office with a man named Steve Raglan, played by Matthew Lillard. You probably know him better as Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo live-action and animated series and movies, or Stu Mocker from the original Scream. You'll probably know him best from those two roles. So he tells Mike about the security gig, as he puts it. That scene was in the trailer. And tells him a little bit about it. But because it's at night, unfortunately Mike can't do it. Doesn't take long before he changes his mind when Abby finds out that she maybe her custody, Mike's custody of her might be getting lost. So he has the change of heart, calls up Steve and asks him, is the job still on? And Steve basically acts a little bit like phone guy in this movie. You know, he tells him about the pizzeria, what he has to worry about, that kind of thing. And Mike starts having the same dream from before again, but this time at the pizzeria. But in his dream, any physical damage he takes in the dream happens in real life. A bit like in the Elm Street movies. It's quite similar to that, because he gets slashed by this hook in his dream, and then he wakes up, and his arm has the exact same slash mark in real life that he just got in his dream. So his aunt and her lawyer and this sibling duo of Jeff and Max. Max, of course, was the one babysitting Abby. Try to work out a plan how to get Mike fired from his new job at the pizzeria. And they're in this little diner, and the waiter that comes up to them is none other than Mr. Game Theory himself, Matt Pat. Yes, Matt Pat gets a cameo in this movie, and it's glorious. He even gets to say, "It's just a theory," as one of his lines. That's what we wanted. We couldn't get Markiplier, but we could get Matt Pat. If there is more FNAF movies, which there probably will be, since Blumhouse wants to make a trilogy of FNAF movies, then Markiplier will probably have a cameo in future ones. You can't we can't go through the whole FNAF movie franchise without Markiplier being in it at least once. He has a big part to play in how popular Five Nights at Freddy's got. So, after a couple of nights, Mike meets this police officer who turns up. Well, actually, it's on the very first night. And her name is Vanessa. Where have we heard that before? Oh yeah, the security guard from Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. That is, of course, what her name is a reference to. And she asks Mike, have you met them yet? And he's like, who? And then he shows her, no, she shows him even, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Acting how they should be in the very friendly way that they're programmed into acting. Vanessa tells Mike that he should quit the job. He's not going to, though. And the very next day, the siblings of Jeff and Max and a couple of other people turn up at the pizzeria and start smashing it to pieces. Well, we already knew, I mean, come on, you're not going to survive. You really think you're going to survive? I mean, they did it in broad daylight. But of course, the pizzeria is like nowadays is like a warehouse. It's so dark. So as they're smashing through the pizzeria, one of the guys hears a banging from a cupboard in the kitchen. He opens it and it's just the fridge and there's nothing inside. But he turns around and there's Chica standing right across from him. And her cupcake actually does all the work and kills this guy. Yeah, for some reason Chica's cupcake is more dangerous here than it is in literally any FNAF game. The only games where the cupcake actually was dangerous was FNAF 4 and Ultimate Custom Night. That's kind of it. Chica's cupcake doesn't do anything in any other FNAF game, really. So he gets killed by the cupcake, and one of the other guys sees this happen and runs away, hides in a storage closet, only for him to turn around, and Bonnie is standing right behind him, killing him. Bonnie opens up the door, and then that makes Jeff run away, but he gets killed as well. Then Max sees this little boy running around the pizzeria telling her to follow him, so she does, and she ends up face to face with Freddy. She starts because he's so massive, she has to put a chair down in front of him and then stand on it to see into his mouth where of course the endoskeleton is. This ends up getting her killed, but in probably the most brutal way anyone has died in this movie so far. Freddy's mouth literally rips her in half. It consumes the top half of her and just leaves the bottom half to flop down onto the floor. Very brutal. Way more brutal than anything the FNAF games show off. So then Mike ends up taking Abby to the pizzeria and tells her she will sleep and he will work. That doesn't last very long, as she's lured out by a voice calling to her, as it's a little boy. Because of course, the animatronic, if you know anything about FNAF lore, the four main animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, are possessed by the souls of dead children that were killed in the 1980s. Vanessa then finally starts to give Mike some backstory that the kids that went missing possessed the animatronics. And that they were taken by someone of the name of William Afton. We all know who he is. And if you don't, he's the purple guy. That's who William Afton is. So Abby ends up running into all four of the main animatronics, and basically she'd been drawing pictures throughout the entire movie, and she called them her friends, but of course no one else could see them. They thought they were imaginary. She was actually drawing the animatronics that's who she'd been communicating with the entire time. So she ends up actually having a lot of fun with them. They even build a little fort out of tables and chairs. So yeah, the animatronics are actually really, really friendly towards Abby when she first meets them. And in the dreams Mike has, the 5 kids that were taken in the 1980s start appearing in his dream. And the main one, which is the one possessing Freddy, tells him he can work out who took his brother. Only for Mike to realise that after Vanessa told him about William Afton, Mike realises it was him. William Afton was the one who took his brother Garrett when he was 12. But in return for finding out who took his brother, the kids ask for Abby in return because they want to make her just like them. They want to turn her into an animatronic just like what they are. But of course there's 5 children but only 4 main animatronics. You'd think the 5th one would be just like it is in the game. You'd think it'd be Golden Freddy, wouldn't you? It's not. Golden Freddy has nothing to do with this movie. After seeing how dangerous the pizzeria can be, Mike decides to go back on the 5th and final night without Abby. But she gets lured to the pizzeria anyway by the kid that possesses Freddy. She's then led to the room with a spring lock endoskeleton, which was shown earlier to Mike, and Chica tries to put her in to the spring lock. But luckily Mike arrives just in time to tackle Chica out of the way and allow Abby to get away. Mike then manages to take down the animatronics temporarily by tasering them. But then there's one more animatronic who walks out from behind the shadows. It's Golden Bonnie, who of course then becomes Springtrap. But yes, to start off with, it's Golden Bonnie. And who happens to be under that suit? Because it's not an endoskeleton. Well, not totally an endoskeleton. Well, the mysterious man takes off the Golden Bonnie head, and it's none other than Mr. William Afton himself. But William Afton is also Steve Raglan. That's right. Matthew Lillard's character from earlier is actually William Afton, Vanessa's father. That was actually a twist I did not see coming, which I probably should have if you think about it. Like, he's the one that gives the security guards these jobs, and then they never end up surviving. Why would he know that so well? Because he was the one killing the security guards. They even put Mike in the same position, handcuffed up in a chair, just like to the previous security guard at the beginning, to try and do the same thing to him. But he manages to get away from it. And so after the big reveal that Matthew Lillard, William Afton, is actually Golden Bonnie, Abby draws a picture of what Golden Bonnie did to the children. She draws a picture showing that he was the one that killed the children that possessed the animatronics. That has the animatronics stop attacking Mike and Vanessa and turn their attention to William Afton. And they start taking him down. And the spring locks start going off within his suit, puncturing parts of his body. Which you'd think would kill him, but he even says the line in the movie just like it does in Ultimate Custom Night. And in Pizzeria Simulator, I always come back. Because he never died. William Afton never dies. He's always around somehow. Whether it's Springtrap, Scrap Trap, Burn Trap in Security Breach, he's always around. So he's dragged away by Freddy and Bonnie. And they all manage to escape. Vanessa gets stabbed right through the stomach by William Afton, but the last time we see her, she's in a hospital bed and she's alive for now. The movie ends with Mike and Abby eating spaghetti and meatballs at home. And they give us one last little mid-credit scene of a taxi driver who drove Abby to the pizzeria earlier as he wakes up, and a little mini figure of Balloon Boy jump scares him. That happened twice in the movie previously, and all 3 times, well, no, not really the third time, but the first 2 times, it was a good jump scare. It actually got me both times. It's not like Balloon Boy doesn't even say anything. It's just a tight little mini figure of him. And is it just me, or does Abby sound a little bit like Balloon Boy from the games? Especially when she says hello. I swear that sounds identical to how Balloon Boy says it in the games. But yeah, overall, it was actually a pretty good movie. And I'm so glad Scott Cawthon got to be a big part of this movie after his unjust and disgraceful cancellation in 2021, where he was doxxed and sent death threats by people who were supposedly fans of the series. What was his crime? Voting for Donald Trump and being a Christian. That was his crime. Utter disgrace that he got cancelled for something like that. But that luckily he got to be a huge part of this movie's production, which I'm very glad to see. It was a pretty good movie. It actually got me a couple of times with the jump scares, which that hasn't happened in years for me with FNAF. And I feel like there's only one way I can end off this video. And that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.